I think we're going to be really proud about the decisions we made right now to be able to set local communities up to be successful for the next 10, 15, 20, or 30 years.
Welcome to another episode of the Community Broadband Bits podcast, Encore Edition. This is Christopher Mitchell at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, and you all will have missed the wonderful introduction that Scott just gave before I realized I wasn't recording. And this is why I should have a proper engineer over my shoulder at all times. But Scott is someone that I've known for many years, doing really great work, both at Indigenous Connectivity Summits where we met and with the state of New York. Scott Rasmussen is the acting director of the New York State Connect All office, and I'm really excited to have you here, Scott. Thank you for joining us.
I'm really excited to be here.
So, Scott, the state of New York has been a real pioneer in broadband service, and is I think now a double pioneer with the latest programs from Governor Hochul. So, why don't you give us a quick lesson as to what the first pioneering effort is, and then we'll probably spend most of our time talking about the Connect All office and what is coming out of that.
I love the idea of a double pioneer. We are always trying to chart new waters in New York State and try to stay ahead of the curve, especially on tech and broadband issues. So I'm glad that that's the impression that we're giving.
Absolutely.
Just to take a step back, as you mentioned, kind of our initial work in the broadband sphere really took hold in 2015 when New York State appropriated $500 million for rural broadband deployment across the state. At the time, it was by an order of magnitude, the largest state program in the country. As mentioned, we read the writing on the wall. We recognized that this was going to be an essential service for everyone, no matter where you lived, and that we needed to put our money where our mouth is and invest in infrastructure and real deployments. So beginning in 2015, we founded the New York Broadband Program. We did 3 phases of funding, again, $500 million, and deployed broadband to 256,000 homes, businesses, and anchor institutions. We put in more than 21,000 miles of new fiber in New York State. For the first time, really, upstate communities were wired more than ever. Obviously, FCC data has its issues, but I think it tells a good story here. 65% of upstate New Yorkers did not have wireline broadband in 2015. Now we're looking at well above 95%. So it's a dramatic change, and we're really, really excited about the work that we've done and excited about the work that we have ahead in the Connect All initiative. And so to outline a little bit about, how we got here and what we're doing ahead, we recognized over the last number of years of work in broadband that we need to be approaching the issue comprehensively. We need to think about access in a truly holistic way. And that doesn't just mean having a wire available in front of your house. It has to be affordable. We need to be thinking about issues like digital literacy, digital inclusion. We have to make sure that you have a device at home. The kind of range of issues that impact New Yorkers and may prevent them from being able to get online, we need to be addressing. And so we took all of that, the knowledge that we learned in the New York Broadband Program, we wrapped it together in a new Connect All initiative that really is, I think, the most comprehensive approach to broadband in the nation. Thinking about it as an essential service in the 21st century economy and making sure that we're committed to meeting everyone where they're at, understanding what their needs are, and trying to figure out a path forward to be able to get them online.
Yeah, I feel like in New York, you've all been through what other states were just starting to go through. And I hope that other states will 5 years down the road end up with as good of a program as what we're about to talk about here. One of the things I just wanted to add is that when the state of New York did the $500 million broadband program, a lot of local companies were able to use that to expand, and that's something that's usually important to my audience. It's important to my organization. So, I think
absolutely. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah, we had 32 participants. I mean, we're talking family-run, ISPs across the state. I think we're really proud that it wasn't, doing these mega projects only with mega companies. We wanted to be inclusive of everybody, make sure that everybody had an opportunity. And we had a number of small ISPs that may have had, aging infrastructure, aging coax plant out there. And we were able to get them support to be able to upgrade that to fiber, to be able to really kind of set them on a trajectory of success for the years to come. So it really, I think, added so much to having a diverse and competitive broadband ecosystem in the state.
And so now we find ourselves in 2022, where I think you have two challenges in front of you, and you might categorize them differently, but I broadly think one of them is still those areas that don't yet have that high quality wireline, ideally, connection, or at least a very high quality connection that is going to be very reliable for them and is affordable. The second piece also deals with affordability, and that's more dealing with all of the people. And this is where the majority of the people would fall of the two groups, where there is a network nearby, but it might not be one that's actually meeting their needs. So how are you thinking about, or how is the office planning on addressing that?
We take as a guiding principle that local communities are best suited to take on and solve local problems. And so a lot of our focus in Connect All is thinking deeply about how can we empower municipalities? How can we empower local communities to be able to actualize the broadband future that they want? I don't have to tell you or your listeners that we have truly once in a generation opportunity for broadband right now. And I try to tell every community that I can, every chance that I can, imagine the broadband future you want in 20 or 30 years. A lot of that infrastructure is being built right now or will be in the years ahead. So, we want to empower those communities to be a meaningful stakeholder in this process, not just kind of telling folks, this is what you get, here's how it looks, but really saying, what resources do you need to be able to envision this future? And then what resources do you need to be able to make it happen? And that's really, our approach in thinking about these. So you mentioned, right, there's still a rural deployment issue. There are still thousands of households across New York that don't have broadband access. We've been working on a broadband availability map at the address level. So we really have good data to be able to guide those investments moving forward. But again, we want to, in that process, that rural deployment process, be working hand in hand with local communities about, what kind of partners do you want in this area? What's a good system? Should we make an award to a private company? Does a county or municipal government want to be able to take this on? So a lot of our work in the rural space is going to be continuing. I think a lot of the successes of the new New York broadband program and making sure that there's a meaningful space for local communities to chime in and be meaningful stakeholders in what that process looks like. I am very confident that in the years ahead, I'm not going to say every New Yorker, but very close to every New Yorker is going to have wireline broadband available where they live. And then the other side of the coin, right, is the millions of New Yorkers who can't afford service or are unsatisfied with their current service or any other host of issues. And we need to be thinking about, what's their future like? What can we do to support them to get online? We really believe in there being a robust and competitive broadband ecosystem, as I mentioned, and we're going to put our money where our mouth is to make that happen. So we are standing up what will be one of the largest municipal broadband programs in the country. Again, the goal here, empowering local communities. So those municipalities, those areas that want to take on this work, that are excited about broadband, that think that they can build out open access networks, municipal projects, things of that nature. We want to be a helping hand, give them the support on technical assistance, walk them through the process, get to the point where they have a real engineering plan, real feasibility studies in place, and then have the money on hand to be able to make it happen, to be able to fund it and start those build outs. So we're kind of taking that multifaceted approach, right? There's the rural communities, building out to them, but at the same time, not turning our back on the millions of New Yorkers who live in suburban and urban communities as well, and making sure that they have a bite at the apple and a real opportunity to envision the broadband future they want.
That's where, I mean, I salute that. I think that's really important to think on both of those tracks. But I feel like what's really amazing and what I want to get a sense of is how New York's going to be spending some of these funds to help support the municipal networks. But I guess I would frame that in a sense that, like, I feel like it's less than a year since Governor Hochul, advanced this. It's probably closer to 6 months. The legislature passed it just a few months ago, and already we're seeing results. And so let's talk about the statewide transmission and how that's already leading to potential investment this summer. I mean, this is a remarkable timeline.
It is a remarkable timeline. Part of what prompted it is talk about fiber shortages. I know it's an issue you've talked about on this show. Some of this was even prompted by folks saying, hey, we have an opportunity to buy equipment now. Let's start moving money fast so we can make this happen, in the short term. And we really tried to pick that up and run with it. As just context, in this recent budget, we were able to secure authority for the New York Power Authority, which owns transmission lines, electric transmission lines across the state, but also has, because of investments in green infrastructure and smart grid technology, also has a lot of fiber backhaul across that transmission line. And, a kind of central tenet of what we've been up to in Connect All is learning and figuring out how to better leverage what we have. There's the side of putting money out there, trying to do RFPs and build infrastructure. The other side of it is, what do we already have on hand that we can make work for New Yorkers better? And so NYPA had this extensive transmission network, this fiber backhaul. We, for the first time, were able to secure authority for NYPA to be able to lease out access to that network, really building a accessible middle mile network across New York State. And it just so happens that NYPA has a lot of municipal electric co-op customers, right? That's a lot of their bread and butter work, is power arrangements with municipal electric co-ops. Well, it just seems like common sense that we would support those municipal electric co-ops to be able to build out fiber networks, for them, the benefit being smart grid, a lot of benefits on the electrical side. But hey, they also get the opportunity to provide broadband to all of their residents, to the households across their service area. It seemed like a win-win, and something that we could, again, leverage a New York State asset that we've had on hand, that we spent more than, I believe, $600 million in building out this fiber network. Let's open it up to people. Let's use it to be able to make sure that we're advancing broadband access all across the state. We announced 4 projects just 2 weeks ago. An initial $10 million. Sorry?
I said, is that all?
That's it. And a $10 million pilot project along with it, to start building out some of these projects and seeing what kind of potential we can have for this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that I feel like, we did a story about Sherburne. They have a municipal electric facility, and they're going to start hooking people up. And, I just think it's a remarkable timeline in a time where mostly we're talking about whether projects will take 2 or 4 years to get going. So kudos on that.
We're shooting for the end of the year in Sherburne. They are committed. They are passionate folks. They got a plan. And, we're just here to try to help facilitate it, like we want to do with any community in New York State.
Now, New York State doesn't have a lot of experience with municipal broadband. I think there's been a lot of interest in it. And probably there's a lot of people there who have actually been involved in these projects, because you all have people from everywhere. But how is your office, the Connect All office, going to help cities take advantage of this opportunity? Our
kind of step one, we're trying to create on-ramps for communities to decide what they think is best, and then empowering them to be able to take that on. That's really our approach again. And so we're trying to create on-ramps to being able to do that. So our kind of first step in this process is setting up kind of planning programs, grants to communities to be able to perform feasibility studies and things of that nature. I'm really a believer in let 1,000 flowers bloom. The more people that are thinking about broadband and connectivity in New York State, in my opinion, the better, right? There's never kind of too much thinking about broadband and connectivity. I think it's such a massive scale of a problem and an issue. We need to be inviting more to be a part of the solution. So our first step is setting up planning grants so that municipalities of any size all across the state has resourcing and capacity to start analyzing what their local needs are. And that'll look dramatically different in Queens than it will in Rochester, than it will in Chenango County, as it will in the North Country. All across New York, right, these communities will hopefully be getting grants, being able to do these feasibility studies and recognize, you know what, maybe everybody in this community has broadband available to them, but affordability is the issue, or competition is the issue we need to approach. Maybe it's a matter of students not having a device at home to be able to learn with. Kind of identifying what those local problems are is kind of step one in this process. Then we want to come in with additional support for communities that say, okay, we've identified the problem. We have a vision statement about how we believe we want to solve it or where we want to get to, what the goals are. Then coming in with real technical assistance. And I will say we have modeled some of what we're working on around other states that I think have been real leaders in this. I know you know Maine well. There's a bunch of other states who have great models for kind of these local planning development processes. And then once you get a feasibility study together, once you get that technical assistance in with engineers and others, then having the capital on hand to be able to make it happen. And so that's kind of the pathway towards success that we see. And it's going to look a little bit different in every community. And that's great. That's good, right? You know, that's how democracy works. That's what we should be striving for.
I'm curious in particular the lower population areas, the lower density areas. You know, in some of the states, New England, we've seen these union districts that states have formed to make it easy for cities and communities to work together. And I know there's some history of that in New York with some of the counties, and like Southern Tier 8 is doing this. But are there any other mechanisms that are needed, or do you think that this is something that will work its way out?
I am hopeful it will work its way out. We kind of created authority in the budget this year to kind of allow for nonprofit, municipal-based entities to arise, to exist. So we tried to create a framework in our municipal law that allows folks to come together on broadband issues and try to advance deployments. We are certainly encouraging smaller communities to try to enter this planning process in partnership with others. You mentioned Southern Tier 8. We are blessed in New York that we have some really great thinkers and minds on this in the Southern Tier, Development Authority of the North Country, DANC up north, that are already doing a lot of this work. And so our goal is to really just try to facilitate that and help folks to move forward and work together.
Excellent. I have to ask, so for people who aren't aware, this is likely the last interview you're ever going to do as the acting director, because long before this interview airs, you're going to be running out the door. And I'm curious, as you just sort of think about the legacy that you and others in the office have had, what will cause you to look back in 3 or 5 years and say that was such a success? Like we did exactly what we set out to do.
Yeah, for your listeners, it is. I don't know if you're supposed to say the time on a podcast because I don't know when people are listening, but it is 4:30 on Friday, and I am leaving the office at 5 p.m. This is truly my last effort as acting director here in the program, which is exciting. I'd rather spend it no place but with you, Chris.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
Looking back, I think throughout our budget process and throughout thinking about broadband, I think it was maybe you that even gave this advice. The biggest chance for failure is not going big enough. And I really believe that. I think if we're not investing enough, if you're kind of shortchanging projects, if you're thinking too small, that's your biggest chance for failure. And I am incredibly proud that our office, and under the leadership of Governor Hochul and others, was able to think really big about broadband and to go big and ultimately secure $300 million in additional state funding. We have capital projects funding coming in. We have the new BEAD funding coming in. I really think that we have, an incredible moment and the flexibility to do it. right, with state dollars at play where we can really invest them strategically and aren't beholden to a NOFO or a notice of funding opportunity from NTIA or others at the feds, that we can really change the game in the state and think about broadband in some incredibly new ways that I think we're going to be looking back in 30 years to the investments and decisions that we're making right now and saying, gosh, that really set us on a new path forward for ubiquitous, universal connectivity in New York State. And we're going to be reaping the benefits of that for generations. Broadband is in many ways, right, the ports and the roads and the other types of infrastructure investments that drove economic success in the 20th century. And broadband infrastructure in many ways is going to be that for the connected economy in the 21st century. And I think we're going to be really proud about the decisions we made right now to be able to set local communities up to be successful for the next 10, 15, 20, or 30 years.
I think that's worth highlighting something for anyone who is a resident of New York. This is an opportunity to really do something. You've created this opportunity, and I feel like every town has people on the bar stools who have all the great ideas in the world, but they don't have the opportunity, or they say they don't have the opportunity. Well, towns have the opportunity now, and what we really need is to make sure that they take advantage of it. And to do that, they need the kind of people who are listening to this show have to take action and take advantage of those tools, I think.
You're absolutely right. I mean, my message is consistently just that. This is the opportunity to envision the broadband future we want to live with in 20 or 30 years. It is the time to think creatively and out of the box and try to do things differently if that's what you want to do. But I think that every community should be thinking deeply right now about where they want to be in 30 years and starting to implement that today.
So my last question to you is, when you and I chatted from time to time about this program, I was very excited, and I have to say that like having 4 towns step up right away, this is exciting. It's really exciting, and I'm just curious if, I don't know if there's other things that are happening that you're aware of that you can share, but are you excited about the results that you're seeing as of now?
Absolutely. I think, I'm really excited about that we were able to get this pilot stood up so quickly and that folks are really running with it already. My understanding is there are lots more folks calling saying, what about us? When are we next? How do we participate? And that's what it's all about. It is so much work, as you know, Chris, to get the ball rolling. And once there's a model out there and people see that it can be successful and see their neighbors doing amazing things, they step forward and say, I want that too. That looks great. How do I participate? And I think that we've turned that corner here in New York State. I think we're going to have some really excellent models for how to do broadband. And we do in the New York broadband program too, right? We have tons of small providers that were incredibly successful and are set up for the next 10, 15, 20 years with their networks. And I think we're really proud of that, and it's exciting to kind of see that start rolling and unfolding. And if anything, it just makes for more excitement about broadband, more people wanting to get involved, more people seeing the future that they could have and the possibilities that they have available, and stepping up to try to make them happen.
Wonderful. Well, Scott, I really appreciate the interview. I'm really glad we got it in under the wire. I certainly want to wish success on the Empire State Development folks, or I'm not sure if I'm supposed to call it the New York State Connect All office, but I know there's a search to find the person. And so I wish you luck personally, and I wish the office luck in finding another person to guide it. Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Chris. Really appreciate your podcast and all you have done for broadband across the country.
We have transcripts for this and other podcasts available at muninetworks.org/broadbandbits. Email us at podcast@muninetworks.org with your ideas for the show. Follow Chris on Twitter. His handle is @CommunityNets. Follow muninetworks.org stories on Twitter. The handle's @muninetworks. Subscribe to this and other podcasts from ILSR, including Building Local Power, Local Energy Rules, and the Composting for Community podcast. You can access them anywhere you get your podcasts. You can catch the latest important research from all of our initiatives if you subscribe to our monthly newsletter at ilsr.org. While you're there, please take a moment to donate. Your support in any amount keeps us going. Thank you to Arnie Hughesby for the song Warm Duck Shuffle, licensed through Creative Commons. This was the Community Broadband Bits podcast. Thanks for listening.